Hey everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Snapchat. And this week, once again, we're joined by one of the OGs of Marvel Snap. And when I say OG, I mean it. Bynx was one of the first content creators out there for Marvel Snap. And I know because I wasn't even making content for Snap. I wasn't even playing Marvel Snap. And I was subbed and watching Bynx content, just like you should be subbed and watching Bynx content. My man, it's great to have you back on the Snapchat. How are you today?
Dude, I'm doing great today, man. It was great having our little catch up as we do beforehand. Always happy to be here back and just having a great chat with my buddy Alex, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. We were just chatting before. It's funny, like we go like, hey, we got to get started early. It's gonna be a late night, and then we end up chatting for half hour about random things.
Time.
Whether it's like we were just talking about how I competed in a Riftbound tournament today, so I was doing that, and then You'd think I'd be burnt out from talking about cards and doing things about cards. But for some reason, I think TCGs and CCGs, I don't think it's ever going to leave me. I think it's going to be one of those things where it's like I'm going to be talking and playing card games for the rest of my life. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that might actually be a good thing because, it's endlessly enjoyable. And I know for a fact that you yourself play other card games too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I speaking of that, I know you've been playing Riftbound and really enjoying that. You've been top cutting tournaments like an absolute stud, like you were just telling me. But yeah, last August I picked up Pokemon TCG after watching it at Worlds. I tried Pocket and it just really wasn't for me. But something about the Pokemon TCG kind of struck me, and yeah, man, it's kind of just been a weekly thing, going to card shops, meeting people, playing. It's been an absolute ton of fun, man. Like last weekend was Pokemon Day, and there was like a bunch of raffles, and a lot more people came out to tournaments. I won a ton of packs. I won like this Mega Venusaur box. It's been really, really good. But yeah, it's been so cool. Before Snap, I played a little bit of Hearthstone, but I really didn't mess with too many other TCGs. But after getting so involved with Snap, having one that's not only, different, where you can think about the game a little bit differently, but also like the physical aspect of it is just so cool, man. And just like I said, getting out there, meeting really, really cool people. Like I've made some awesome friends through it in the area. It's just been really, really fun, and I 100% agree. I definitely think it's something that's going to stick with me for the rest of my life, man. Hundo P.
I like the fact that we're starting a Marvel Snap podcast by talking literally about every one of its potential competitors all at once. But it's funny because you mentioned like Pocket, right? And I remember playing Pocket when it first came out and being like, I made a bunch of videos for it. The videos performed really well, like statistically and views-wise. And I'm like, yo, I don't love this game. Like, I just don't like it. And a big part of what I want to do with content is I just want to cover things I love. Like, you can chase viewership, you can chase all that stuff. And I feel like for me, it's like, that's not what I want to be doing. I want to be covering things I truly am passionate about. Believe it or not, still passionate about Marvel Snap. They've tried to beat it out of me, damn it. But somehow, I'm still passionate about Snap. But that's why I started playing Riftbound. So I'm like, I checked the game out. I was like, damn. I actually really like how this plays. And I was doing a podcast for Riftbound as well called Into the Rift with Joe Curley. And it was one of those things where it's like, it started slow. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't care that it's not getting as many views as maybe you'd wish or like, but I'm having so much fun. I'm going to keep doing it anyway. And now we actually had our first podcast outperform the Snapchat, which is wild, right? And you actually, behind the scenes, this guy congratulated me. He's like, hey, congrats on the awesome pod pop off. What a gentleman, Bynx. Like, you're just building up the community from the viewers to the creators, just doing your work to just spread some love. And you know how rare that is in this world, man. I just appreciate you so much.
I appreciate you too, man. Like I said before, man, like seeing my friends and awesome people I've met through streaming be successful is like my absolute favorite thing to see. And I do try and reach out to people because I know not a lot of people do, and a lot of times it can feel thankless sometimes, some of the things that you do. So it means a lot that you were happy to see that, and that you mentioned that when we first started talking. But I also think it's a little bit weird because I think that it's a bit of a misconception that I feel like people look at content creators as people who do just kind of like chase views and just like kind of go and play, whatever's popular, or just like chase whatever's popular. And I'm sure there's people that do that, but for the most part, almost everyone I've met has like that same thing that you were just saying, where it's like, if I'm playing a game and I just don't like it, it doesn't matter how good the views are. It doesn't matter what's happening. like once you stop enjoying what you're doing for work, like it becomes like work, man. Like we have like these really cool jobs where we get to play video games and talk about things that we really, really like as a living. And I feel like there probably are some people who do get trapped like that and kind of like just go towards, chasing what has higher viewership or chasing anything, no matter how much they care about it. But the best content creators that I've met and the most awesome ones almost exclusively have the same opinion that I think me and you have of like, it doesn't matter how good something's doing. I just want to play something that I really, really like and share with people. And you hope that it catches on.
No, there's no question about that's absolutely true, right? And I think that if you're playing something you don't enjoy and you're just going through the motions, it shows in your content too. Like people can feel that energy. You can't fake it. And we've all seen like YouTube videos. Like my kids will put YouTube videos on, and I'm walking by and I'm like, they're like the fake excitement and like the rant. They're like, you can read through that so easily, right? Just like a human being can detect a real laugh from a fake one, right? It's just like you feel that emotion. And for me, it's like I'm lucky that Snap still brings those moments out of me. But there have been times where it doesn't as well, right? We've had some dark times in Marvel Snap Land. Listen, if you're watching and listening right now, you've survived the dark times of Marvel Snap. In fact, the amount of people that come by streams.
Knock on wood, man. Knock on wood.
I know. You're one of the few left, everybody. It's kind of crazy though, because a lot of people have been like, hey, Alex, like don't play Snap anymore, but like still like watching the videos to keep up with what's going on, right? So it's here's to hoping 2026. You know, they committed to fixing the bugs. That was cool. It's actually not one of the topics, but they sent like a little kind of, not a roadmap, but like an idea of like, hey, like, yeah, we're working on draft mode. Hopefully that looks cool. But they're going to try to fix like the actual bones of the game. They're going to actually try to make the game more responsive, better, and shore up some of the code that might be holding them back. Actually, why don't we talk about that first? It's not an official topic, but they did release that kind of roadmap. And the major part of that is like, we're going to fix this game up. Like we recognize there's too many bugs, and I think the actual code is holding them back to some degree. So would love your take on that.
Yeah, for me, I'm I'll believe it when I see it kind of guy. Because people have been talking to me about draft mode and being like, oh, did you see they actually did draft mode? It's like, they haven't done anything yet. You know, I'll believe it when they, you know, show off like the preview of it. I'll believe it when they give it a date, because I do feel like one thing that Snap does, whenever they put a date to something, it pretty much always happens. Like a lot of times they'll like talk about stuff like that might be coming, and then it either gets pushed down the road. But once they put an actual date to something, like it pretty much has universally like went through. So I'm someone who just kind of holds with bated breath. I'm cautiously optimistic with stuff like that. It is really cool to see that they're addressing like the bug issue. But again, you know, we've seen things. They had the one that really got to me was when they put out the thing that they fixed the red pips, and then the red pips were worse like right afterwards. Like they said that they were going to adjust and change all these red pips, which I hate because I'm just ADD and I will like, whenever there's red pips, I'll click them and then it doesn't do anything and it freaks me out. So then they announced that, I was so stoked. And then now it's a little bit better, and they did some things to fix it now. But like after they first said that it was that in a patch, it was actually worse for a little bit. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I like that they are acknowledging things. I think that acknowledging things is really good. And I think as as a community member, I really like seeing things be acknowledged. I think that that's an important step for like building trust with stuff like that. But really, you know, I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm excited that they're admitting it. And we'll see when it actually comes or when the changes are. I'll have my takes on it then. You know, I've just heard too much. I feel like in not only Snap, but just in games in general, that they'll say a lot of really great things and they'll pepper it up and they'll make it really flashy and sound really good. But really all that matters is what they end up delivering. So cautiously optimistic, happy that they acknowledged it, but I'll wait to see and have my takes on it once I actually see the improvements.
Of course. And I will link the blog post in the description so anyone can read it who hadn't seen it. They did mention that they want to improve card acquisition, which is cool. I think that they have actually made some improvements. I'm going to give them their flowers. Like they were releasing like 13 cards a season or something. They definitely dialed that back a little bit. They started incorporating more cards into the limited time game modes. Those are generally acquirable for 800 gold, which I thought was really good. They actually jumped it up to 1,200 gold and brought it back down to 800 because I think you guys voted with your wallets, which is exactly what has to happen. But before we get lost in the sauce on that, I got to tell you, you bring up the red pips. I have a conspiracy theory. You want to hear it?
Sure.
Okay. Red pips are broken as hell. We know that. They barely work. I don't like the fact that they have like red pips on like the token bundles for like variants and stuff. Like, don't show me that. I don't care. Like, and every day it seems like it resets. But there's one red pip that has been mysteriously absent for some time. Do you know which one it is?
No. Is it the one to like grab your tokens or grab your gold?
Hell yes, it is. The grab your tokens pip has not been working for me for a long time. And I thought to myself, like, I bet you I've forgotten multiple days where I log in, get my credits, and I don't remember if I got my tokens yet. Conspiracy theory is that pip intentionally absent.
That's interesting. That would maybe you're getting A/B tested, because it still shows up for me, and I still have to click it. So maybe you're in the B group of the A/B test, and they're trying to see, hey, if we don't show them this red pip, how much less are they actually going to click it and claim this free stuff? I feel like it could be true. I feel like it could be a true conspiracy theory right there.
Yeah, so they get Ben Brode in a room for the first time in 7 months, and they're like, "Yo, what are we gonna do about Marvel Snap?" And he's like, "Make it so Canadians can't see the bip on the token shop." They're like, "That's genius. We got them."
Canadians they're too consistent at clicking that tip, man. They're clicking it 3 times a day, every single day. We gotta slow them down.
Gotta get them off it. No, the credit one's there. I'm telling you, the token one isn't in the second page. But anyways, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I'm glad they're going to be fixing stuff up, and they got the new game modes coming. They actually gave us a whole indication of what the seasons are going to look like, which is kind of cool. And again, they did mention that, I'm going to quote them because I don't want to be misquoted. Quote, "It's too early to get specific, but we are working on new game modes, including one that people have been very loud about wanting, draft mode. The big difference between these is they're built around new deck building rules that haven't been possible in Snap before." So, Bynx, I am personally excited for that. Draft mode has obviously been something that we've been looking forward to for the longest time. And if we're going to give Second Dinner any credit at all, they do cook with the modes. The new modes are good. Like, I actually like pretty much all of them. If a new mode is out, I'll play that over ranked all day long. Like, I'll play Sanctum Showdown. This time around, I played nothing but like 2099 stuff, which is kind of cool. Like, I'm just gonna let the Doom bots win for me, bro. Right? And I became a believer in Moondragon. But anyways, yeah, I'm interested. Any closing thoughts on this coming update to Marvel Snap's ecosystem?
Now, I will say I am very excited for draft mode. I know I was saying, I'll be cautiously optimistic. I'll see when I see it. It's because I don't want to get myself too excited if it's still going to be 8 months down the line. I really think that if draft mode comes out and it's good, I'm going to probably try doing like a month of pretty much only doing draft mode because I really, really love the idea of draft mode. The one thing that scares me about draft mode is that I'm scared they're going to overcook it, because in some previous things where Glenn was talking about draft mode, he said he doesn't want it to just be kind of like Hearthstone Arena is, where you basically get an option of 3 cards, you pick one, and then you go on to the next one. And for me, I feel like that would be perfect. That's like exactly what I want to see. So I'm a little scared that they might overcook it and add too much to it to make it a bit too convoluted of a process. Because I personally think the simpler the better. I just think the base game of Snap is so good and so solid that having games against people that aren't running meta decks and you're just kind of like playing piles of cards against pile of cards. I'm in a whole living playing piles of cards. I'm going to be in my zone, man. So I'm really, really excited for it. I hope that they don't overcook it. So that's my thoughts on draft mode. And then as far as like overall limited time modes, I would generally agree with you that I do like a lot of the offerings that they have, especially Sanctum Showdown, because pretty much all the other limited time modes are just like just variations of normal Snap. Whereas like Sanctum's like, they made a completely new and different game, but that's so similar but so different to how you win in normal Marvel Snap. And that shocked me. Like, that shocked me the more that I've been thinking about Sanctum in the last couple of times that it's come out. So, maybe that should give me a bit more of being open to draft mode and letting them cook a little bit more and being a little bit more weird with it, because it's just crazy that Sanctum like functions and is so interesting and cool using all the same tools that regular Marvel Snap has, and it makes it feel so completely different. So specifically, I would say like Sanctum, I think they absolutely crushed, and I would love to see more limited time modes like that, as opposed to ones that are just like very slight augmentations to just normal Snap.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing worth mentioning is that with limited time game modes, it gives them a chance to like test things like ideas that maybe they wouldn't want to put in ranked ladder yet, like asymmetric snapping, which was introduced in Deadpool's Diner, which I think is kind of a cool idea. Now, I think that obviously symmetrical snapping, like what we have now, makes sense. And it's been what we've always had and what we've always done. And like, especially in competitive circumstances, the stakes raise is important. But I'm starting to wonder if like just on the regular ladder pre-infinite, if like is maybe infinite only just going to be the snapping we have now, and on climbing to infinite, maybe it's asymmetrical. You know what I mean? Like, couldn't that be interesting? Raise the stakes, make more of a differentiation between infinite and non-infinite by having that different snapping mechanic, that adjustment. Maybe that makes the ranking up experience a little less tedious for some people, because you snap and then they just leave. It's like, what was the point of getting into this, right? But once you're in infinite and you're actually climbing individual like ranks, trying to get to rank 1 or whatever, then the snapping mechanic kind of adds that tension that a more competitive player would be looking for. Whereas most casual players, I think, would be satisfied with like ranking to infinite every season. That's their goal. They're not trying to be number 1. So I don't know, man. There's so many ideas, and you did mention the pick 3 from Hearthstone. I like that too, but at the same time, don't you remember in Hearthstone where people used to like install, like, was it Overwolf or whatever, and it would just tell them like exactly what to pick anyways, and everyone was just playing like the same stuff. And I felt like that actually beat me out of that mode, like Arena, a little bit. I like the idea of like pure jank. Like when I play, we're going to talk about it again. Like when I play sealed modes in other card games, like in Riftbound or whatever, I like the fact that I open 6 packs and I piece together like a complete hodgepodge of cards. And I know my opponent is playing with a hodgepodge of cards, and that like we have cards that are so not meta in that deck. And like, I know that they can't prepare for it, and I can't prepare for what they're going to do. And games are won and lost on the most bizarre plays with the most bizarre cards, because that's what you opened in your packs. I like that spirit. Maybe that's just Erisham. I don't know. But, you know what I mean? But I kind of like that spirit too. So anyways, I'll get your thoughts on that before we move on to the reviews of the new cards.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, man, I do think that it would be a bit more spread out than that. I think that no matter what happens, people will optimize it with stuff like Overwolf or using things to figure out exactly what the best cards are. I mean, everyone's just going to optimize to try and, like, certain people will always just try and optimize to find things and try and get the best possible thing. But that doesn't mean that everyone's going to do that, and that doesn't mean that you have to do that, you know? Yeah, I do agree that I really like sealed stuff. Like there's going to be a pre-release for Pokemon next weekend where you basically get kind of like a made-up deck that they have of 40 cards, and then you get to open a few packs, and then you get to like add those cards in. So everyone kind of has like different decks, even though there's 4 different like starting decks that everyone has. So Pokemon doesn't have very much as far as sealed format, especially because like evolutions and stuff like that, you kind of need like multiple of certain cards for things to really make sense, but that's like the closest thing that they have, and I've also like always really enjoyed that. So maybe like, yeah, maybe you just get 30 cards thrown at you and you get to pick your favorite 12 out of them or something like that. Maybe there is some way that they can give it a little bit less of a like optimization route, but either way, man, I'm just excited for a different way to play Snap, and I'm excited for other people to play random piles of cards like I've done by choice for so long, because maybe we'll even the playing field a little bit, you know?
Yeah, no question, buddy. All right. It is about time that we actually cut to talk about Marvel Snap. Because I was about to go down the rabbit hole, by the way, talking about Pokemon. First of all, there's people out here probably thinking like, wait, you can play Pokemon cards? So you just collected them? Not to mention how, like, honestly, not that expensive to get into. Like, you can get a pretty decent start, cheap. Like, not the starter decks, but like, do you know those decks they release, like the tournament ones? Like you can buy them.
Yeah, League Battle decks.
Yeah, the League Battle, they're pretty legit, man. So
yeah,
Riftbound, the opposite problem, I think. Not quite as inexpensive as Pokemon. But anyways, let's talk about Sabah Nur. We're going to be talking about Sabah Nur in review, Isca, the Unbeaten in review, Juggernaut in review, and then we're going to be doing our previews of both Gambit and Sandstorm. Bynx, Sabah Nur, the Season Pass card, the 4/5 that reads Objective, have a full front row at each location, transform into Apocalypse Celestials Chosen, who will then, on reveal, swap the lowest power card in your front row at any location with a card from your deck. So I'll give it to you. Do you think Sabah Nur, Apocalypse's Celestials Chosen, is worth the purchase of a season pass?
Yes. Well, I mean, first of all, I think if you're ever going to spend money in Marvel Snap, I tell people this all the time. You should just always buy the season pass. It's just always the best way to actually spend your money. But I think in Sabah Nur, I think it's a really, really solid card that people haven't figured out yet. I was really interested in this because I made a really weird just pile of cards that was like Psylocke and Zabu and just a bunch of really solid 4-drops because this and Isca released at the same time. And that ended up actually becoming like the third most played deck on Untapped. And I was looking at the top 5 decks on Untapped playing this card over the first like 3 or 4 days. The 5 decks that are running this card are as different as you could possibly see. Like there was like one that was this like Thanos, like Lockjaw style deck that's using like this Blink and Lockjaw to try and, flip the stones into the deck and get big cards. There was a deck that was, it was a really weird like Cersei style deck that was running like White Tiger and all these like really weird things. There was my weird deck, which is just like a good card style deck with 6 4-drops in it, just trying to play like efficiently every single turn. There was like a full Zoo archetype, and then there was a full Aurora archetype. And I've never seen a card come out like this and have the 5 most played decks be like completely different from each other. So like, first of all, I love that aspect of it. I love that it just seems like to be a very powerful tool that can go into a variety of different decks. I really, really like cards like that. I feel like there's a lot of room to like play with them and try and like find their strengths. But overall, I just think that this card is kind of like a glue card for some archetypes because it's really powerful. You're getting a 4/8. Like, let's be honest, pretty much every game of Marvel Snap, you're going to be filling the front row. Almost always. It's very, very rare, and sometimes locations can make it a little bit funky, but just a really, really solid card, a 4/8 that will flip your lowest power card into your deck and sometimes give you something really good and almost always give you an upgrade because it is targeting that lowest power card. But just overall, like having this card and Isca come out at the same time, like they're being open to just making good 4-drops. For the longest time, I feel like when Zabu, Shang-Chi, like back when Darkhawk was 4 cost, like there were so many decks that would just basically run Zabu, Shang-Chi, and 2 other 4-drops. And that was like over half the meta, it felt like at certain points. So I feel like they really pulled back on how much power they were serving to 4-drops for that reason. And this is like the first time they've like released multiple cards in a row that are just really good high value 4-drops. And I'm really, really excited to see that because I think that that's cool for mid-range decks. But yeah, just overall, this card would be great in draft. This would be like a draft all-star type of card. Just very, very solid, a good card that you can try in a lot of decks and something we haven't figured out yet, I would say.
It's kind of interesting to hear you talk as positively as this for Sabah Nur because I'm actually, I think, a little lower, but I did like the card. It's exactly what you said. Getting to play in a whole bunch of different archetypes was cool. And that where I played it most was actually in Thanos because I made a Thanos deck with Sabah Nur because I'm like, I'll be able to fill the front row easy and get one of those stones out there. Who cares, right? Sabah Nur, I played Juggernaut in that deck as well because a lot of stones have different powers and everything I had was different powers. And then I actually played Isca in that deck too. Because I'm like, why not have all 3? So I was playing games with all 3, which was so fun. And I even did that in like Zoo as well. And then eventually cut Isca from the Zoo because it didn't quite make sense. But it was kind of cool how they came up. This was the first time, I think, in Marvel Snap's history that they released 3 cards on one day. And I played with all of them for the entire stream that I was doing it across a bunch of different decks altogether. And then over time was like, okay, this deck is actually better without Juggernaut. This deck's better without Isca, which is rare. But anyway, and Sabah Nur is good here and stuff like that. It was actually really fun. I had a really fun couple days of like playing the game and like checking out this particular new card. I did have some circumstances though, where Sabah Nur absolutely throttled me. Like I made a deck with like, I had the Void and Sentry with Cersei and the Hood, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna get rid of the Void for me and stuff like that. But I had a thing where like it pulled a card like Juggernaut before it did its objective. So it took a completed objective Juggernaut, but because of the play order, I played Apocalypse first, or Sabah Nur first, then Juggernaut. It checked this objective first. The 2-power Juggernaut was the first one there. Was like the last of the 2 played, but also the lowest power because it was 2. Pulls it off the location. It would have been a 2/8. Pulls it out of the location and puts Hood there instead, and completely throws the game. I was like, no. And meanwhile, in my deck, I had like Devil Dinosaur or something like that. I don't remember what I had in my deck. No, it wouldn't have been in that deck. I was playing Devil Dinosaur in my Thanos deck. Whatever. I had something that was not that. I was like, no, you scam artist. How dare you? So I almost wondered if like, it would have been cool if it had like a blink text or something like that. But then that'd be so overpowered probably, right?
Yeah.
That'd be dirty overpowered. But
I saw
anyways,
people on the Reddit saying like, "Oh, it should just make the card that it summons +3 power." And it's like, what do you mean? You just like give a card 3 extra power with its ability, and it's like, oh, it should just do this. It's like, what? I don't know, man. It's just like the card's like really like. I think the fact that if it didn't target the lowest card, this card would be trash, right? And then maybe you could add the blink text. But the fact that it always targets the lowest card, while there are some bad things like you say, and like, you know, especially if you run Hood Index, which is a really good card with this because it's almost always going to be one that it's going to slot in, can still sometimes hang out in the deck, and then you got to pop it out. So it's a bit of a risk reward thing. But yeah, no, I feel your points definitely.
So, in terms of untapped-based statistics, taken just before recording this podcast, ranks 82, rank 1, infinite. It's currently running a 53.3% win rate at a 13.5% popularity, which is good, but not nearly as high as what we saw with, like, Xiao Lao, for instance, or what we saw with Star-Lord. But Star-Lord took, like, a week to really start cooking. Like, Star-Lord almost, like, looked good, for sure, on the first few days, and then like the really cracked stuff that started getting solved, and he started ruining everything. Do you think Sabah Nur can get to that point? Like, do you think it has the potential to reach the levels of Xiao Lao and of Star-Lord?
No, I don't. But I
Good.
think it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
I think that I think Xu Lao and Star-Lord were obviously too high on the power level. You know, you saw that they got nerfed within a month, both of them, and they were both kind of like redefined archetypes. I like what Xu Lao brought to the game a lot more than what Star-Lord brought to the game, because like, I don't know, Star-Lord just kind of feels like a bit of a degenerate type of card where it's just like, okay, well, you have 14 energy, like how am I supposed to play around like the million different things that you can do, and then, you know, there's like Juggernaut Cosmo decks now and all these things to like completely shut you out. Whereas Sabah Nur, it's just it's a powerful card. It's a card that can be used in a lot of different ways. It's not really going to define its own archetype, but it's a really, really great tool to have access to, especially like I said, I feel like 4-drops have now kind of gotten below the power curve because they were so hesitant with how dominant Zabu and Shang-Chi were for so long. So having like a new 4-drop that's really high on the power level, I think it's just a really, really nice tool to have. And it's definitely going to have a much different impact than like the Xu Laos or the Star-Lords of the world are. But for me personally, I'm much more interested in a card like this that's not so clear in how to use it. Because like, even though like Xu Lao has like some different decks, and Star-Lord I think is actually a lot more interesting than people give it credit for, because it can make some really, really cool decks. It's just like the most optimized way to play it just seems to be play as many of them as you want and then play 2 Fooms and then win. So like for me, I'm much more interested in cards like Sabah Nur that's just powerful, and it's like a bit of a puzzle to figure out where he's best, and it's another option to always think about as you're deck building, as opposed to these things that are more like mandatory archetypes where there's like 5 cards you kind of already know that you want to run with them, and it's kind of like taking care of some of that process for you. Someone who really likes to build decks, I think Sabah Nur really speaks to me a lot more.
The thing that I was thinking about though, and tell me if you agree before we get into the star ratings for Sabah Nur, I don't think that this card outside of this season will see much play as it stands. Like, if you're trying to be as competitive as possible, I don't know if this card, Sabah Nur, ends up making decks that are like going to be meta defining. I don't know if we're going to see, tournaments being won on Sabah Nur. I just wonder if the randomness of it and the 4-8 tagline, which is good but not great, will ultimately get it like punted from some of the most competitive 12-card shells that we see. That's the concern I have. Despite the fact that like I generally like the card, I'm coming in at approximately 3 stars because I think the card is worth getting for the season pass. I think that like it's fun to have, but I don't think it has the competitive legs behind it. Like, I don't know if it's going to be a card that past this season will be meta defining, and it's definitely no. I don't think it's definitely not meta defining. That's for sure. But I don't know if it'll make many decks after this season. Like, I can see it being in like some B and C tier stuff, but like the A and S tier, like if you're trying to be competitive, or I don't know, like do you think I'm wrong? Like, do you see more upside, or like I'd be curious about your thoughts first on star rating, of course, on whether or not past this season, if you think this is going to hold up.
Yeah, I think I'm going to rate it I think I'm at 4 stars with this card. I really think that it is a bit underrated right now. And I think it's a very similar reason to why I think Drax is very underrated still. People are starting to understand how crazy strong Drax is, but it took a really long while. And I think it's because of the meta that it appeared in, right? Like we're right after Shulao and Star-Lord, which were just so dominated by these like high tier decks that present this threat to you that's so hard to beat, that it kind of feels like for a while you either like have to play that archetype or you have to play something that directly counters it. Whereas like cards like Drax and Sabah Nur, I think are just very good high value tools that you can add into a deck. And in a meta where those cards are continued to like push down and the meta becomes more something that's competitive and has lots of different things that feel like they can be super successful, I think that's where cards like Sabah Nur and Drax can really, really shine as these tools to expand and up the power level of different existing shells that people are messing around with. So I think that Sabah Nur, I actually think that it will continue seeing play after this season. And I think that it's going to be because the power level of this card at a base level, I think is very high. And I think that right now we're in a very interesting meta, and we have for the last couple of months, that's a bit restrictive on being able to feel like you can just play a card that's just like pretty solid and good value.
All right. 2 differing takes. I mean, generally speaking, we both like the card. Bynx a little higher on it, Alex a little lower, but regardless, definitely a fun design. Definitely a cool, fun design. And if you're looking for a season pass card that like people of all different collection levels can play, like if you're a new beginning player and you're playing Zoo, like Squirrel Girl in this does the thing almost, right? So it's like, it's kind of cool from that perspective. So yeah, Sabah Nur, and this is not Sabah Nur, this is Drax, the Avatar of Life. It's time we talk about Isca the Unbeaten, a fitting name for the super premium season pass card that is running a 56% win rate and a 30% popularity rating, according to Untapped basis statistics, ranks 80 to rank 1 infinite. That is a very high number. In fact, it is double the play rate of Sabah Nur as a super premium season pass card. You know what? I'm going to give you the floor here. Isca the Unbeaten. It was my 5-star last week going into the season. And I don't want to say Alex was right, but also Bynx, I think I might have been right.
Oh, yeah. Easiest 5-star card you can imagine, man. This card is an absolute beast. I think that a lot of people are trying to do too much to this card, and they aren't just realizing the value that this card, just as a singular card that this thing has, man. If you play this in a lane with that you're down by 7, it's pretty much going to guarantee jump to 12, and then you're threatening 24 at the end of the game. That's crazy, man. I do think that I think people are going to get a little better at understanding how to play around it, because I don't think people understand how to play around this card at all right now. And also, I do think that there's a very interesting that they released this right now, because one of the best ways that you can counter this card is with objectives, because the end of turn step happens and then the objective step happens. You can use cards like Juggernaut to be losing that location by 2. Isca checks. He says, "Oh, I'm already winning. I don't got to get bigger." Boom, Juggernaut flips at the end of the game. You flip that lane, and she just sticks there at 3 power. So I really like that if they were going to release a card like this, they release it at the same time as objective, because this card needs something like that. Otherwise, it's just so ridiculous. But yeah, people are just using it as just a great singular value generator that can go in almost any deck. But also, man, the Invisible Woman decks are using this, and it seems so hard to compete against when this triggers. Like, they play it on the final turn, and it triggers like 4 or 6 times. Like, it can literally flip a lane that you're losing by, like 100 power if they get like 6 triggers of this. It's really crazy, man. Doubling is a very, very scary thing in Marvel Snap, and this card does it better than almost any other card.
So that deck you're referring to, again, according to Untapped, nearly a 62% win rate, 0.76 cube rate, and just under 10,000 games. It is the number 1 right now. It's crazy. And I mean, the writing was on the wall. Like, this seems so obvious too. It's just like, you look at it, you're like, yeah, this is going to be crazy. And I agree that I think buffing its bait, because the more you buff it, the less it's going to proc. Like, you just let it do its thing. Like, going out as a 4-3 is absolutely fine. Like, it's going to be fine. To the point where, like, I was even playing a Zabu. Like you mentioned Zabu. Zabu's second time mentioned this week. Let's go. And I brought it down to 3, but then I wasn't able to reliably even pick locations or battlefields to play her in, because I was like, oh, I don't know where they're going to be. I want to be losing that spot to start getting the ramp going. And then I would play it, and then we didn't even play there. So now she's just sitting by herself. And I'm like, well, now they're going to play on her on turn 6, and she's going to only be 6 power. So now it's scuffed. But what I tried to do, and you're right, there's ways to get around it. First of all, there's the obvious. Like, if you just want to, like, hate punch Isca in the face, then you can just, Cosmic Ghost Rider, and that'll get it done, right? You Cosmic Ghost Rider.
Ghost, dude. People are playing Ghost right now. It's crazy.
That surprises you? What do you expect people to do?
That's what I'm saying. It's like the card's so strong that it's making people play Ghost. This card that has been a joke for so long since it got changed. That's nuts, man. That really speaks to how strong it is.
Wait, you think Cosmic Ghost Rider is a bad card?
No, Ghost.
Oh my God. I thought you were just shorthanding Ghost, Cosmic Ghost Rider as Ghost. We can talk about Ghost too. Oh my God, I went back.
Yeah, people are playing Ghost, man. It's crazy, dude. I've never seen this card since it got changed. And for the first time, I'm finally seeing it because people are using it to try and counter it. And it's pretty good at it. I mean, it's like a pretty efficient card if there's a lot of those end of turn decks, especially if that deck is really good. The problem is that Invisible Woman deck can just play those cards at the very end. And it's just like, Isca just wins one lane, cooked. Something goes for another one. It's tough, man.
Yeah, so like I was talking originally about Cosmic Ghost Rider, but you are right. Ghost is seeing play. But like Cosmic Ghost Rider seems like a very natural inclusion because it's a good catch-all. It'll turn off Isca, it'll turn off Yocasta, it'll turn off a lot of those things. So you're getting like the Prodigy stuff too. You swipe it. Prodigy's often being played on turn 5. So then, like, as a result, like, you're like, boom, see you later. You copied, like, whatever. It's
probably not nice vanilla card you copied there.
Yeah, congratulations. Hopefully you're playing Patriot. So, like, I think that Cosmic Ghost Rider is a good call here. What I was trying to do, and I know that this was kind of like cook a little bit, right? And I know you'll kind of get behind this here. I was playing Captain Marvel. I was playing Sholao, Captain Marvel, and I was juicing Cap to like 20 power. I'm just like, you win the lane. You win the game for me, Cap. I'll win one and you just win the other. I'll make sure there's space. I'm going to win this lane and it's your job to win the other. And like I had some wild games with Cap flying around because Cap doesn't care about Isca, right? This is like, I'm going to win the game or I'm not going to win the game. I still think this card could use a little bit of love. This is probably one of the like Cap Marvel's probably one of the most powerful, superheroes in Marvel and is one of the worst cards in the game. And I tried to cope so hard. And listen, the only reason why I bring this up is because if someone's going to cope alongside with me in deck building, I know it's Bynx. Bynx can feel like you know what I'm going with here. Like if anybody knows trying to be creative in a deck, it's you. And so like I tried to make Captain Marvel work and stuff like that. But like the idea of like trying to move around her procs and I think it's worth mentioning that A, like it's possible. Counterplay is possible. But B, there's only so much counterplay. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be doubling power, then like this is just stupid. Like it's still just a stupid card. And if the card is so strong that you have to like actively play around it and come up with new strategies to not proc it, card is broken. It's a 5-star.
Yeah, it's like, Giga Chad just plays Isca and like lets you spend the whole game like figuring out how to beat that lane and then just wins the other 2 lanes while you're doing that, right? Like there's it really is that it's just like this terrifying inevitability of a card. And I do think people are going to get better at playing it because I think people are not very good at playing it right now. I see so many people playing it on lanes that they're winning by a bunch and playing it where it's not procking immediately, which is by far the best thing you can do is get the first proc of Isca down because it just makes the card every time it procs, it gets so much like it's a scaling threat that gets so much more threatening every proc, right? So like I feel like people are going to get better at playing it. While people are going to get better at playing around it, like I said, I think Objective is a really, really cool counterplay. I don't know if you've had some really good feeling like Sabah Nur flipping and winning an Isca lane or a Juggernaut flipping and winning an Isca lane. Feels really, really good to play around this card, but I definitely see this card being a nerf target. And, speaking of super premium pass, I do not like having those cards be such high power level. I feel like it happened initially with Fantasticar. and then they've been pretty good with it. And all the super season pass cards that they've released have been cards that are interesting and fun and cool, but not necessarily something that you feel like you need. Like, man, you feel like if you're trying to play a lot of good decks right now, you feel like you kind of need this card. And I don't really like that being on that additional level of the paywall, even though now you can buy it through tokens after the community response to the first one. But I do hope that this doesn't become a trend where cards that are as powerful as Isca find their way in that super premium pass.
So we were actually going to talk about that in the mailbag. We had a question or a comment about that, about us to discuss that. So maybe we'll just cover that right now. I think it's an interesting topic while we're talking about Isca. It actually came from Andreas from Copenhagen. And Andreas said, "Hey guys, love the show, and I usually agree a lot with you, including that Isca will be a problem. But I feel like the criticism of it being a problem that the Super Premium Season Pass card is better than the regular Season Pass cards are a weird one. The Super Premium card can usually be obtained with tokens, and the regular pass card is only available via ping. So I would think that the other way around is more of an issue."
That's interesting, and that is pretty valid, especially after the original change. I think that there's maybe two things to it. One, it's maybe a conditioning thing, because I think that with live service games like this, I just have an understanding that there's usually going to be like a pass and then something that's exclusive for it, right? So I feel like I'm kind of conditioned to that, whether that's good or bad. That is something that's like a known and something that I feel like is kind of accepted because, the games do have to make money. They're a business. And I feel like that's just something that's been kind of like the standard for so long. So in my concern with it is like, I think that that's a very valid argument that, there is one that's gated. And while they tried to gate, the super season pass, they have made it so that it's available. So I can understand that criticism, but I do think that to me, it comes down to more, I think that consistency and kind of like doing the same thing and not getting blindsided is really important. That's why I was so mad when the Fantastic Art thing happened. And with they didn't say anything about it. They weren't you weren't allowed to talk about it until it actually happened. And it was like in front of you to actually pay, like stuff like that. I really, really hate. So maybe it is a conditioning thing, and maybe that's something that I have to analyze with myself and say like, oh, maybe you're just being conditioned to this thing that actually is worse, but it's not. But for me, whenever I'm playing a game, I feel like there's somewhat of like a unwritten like agreement between me and this game for what's going to happen. And what really upsets me is when that agreement feels like it gets broken or it gets changed or it gets adjusted, especially with very little warning communication. So for me, I can understand that being a pretty valid criticism. But I personally think that, like, to an extent, I think that it's okay to have this, special card that comes out, but then having more of it and then having an additional one be there, which is really pushing you to spend direct money, even though you can buy it for tokens. I personally just don't like that aspect of it. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that too, because that is an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, the thing that comes to mind for me is like, I love playing games. I can't stop. I'll never stop. Like, I don't know if my wife married me thinking like, he'll eventually stop playing it. It ain't stopping. I'm playing games. It's never happening. We're all playing games till the bitter end, man. And I'll tell you, mobile games, I have a hard time with because first of all, I play games. I like them. There's a lot of really well designed mobile games, and like some of them are more free to play friendly than others. The thing that really drives me nuts are like the subtle manipulations, right? That really start to add up. And like, listen, I get it, right? I get it. We're going to, instead of just paying us money for the stuff, we got like this weird currency you got to spend, which makes it hard to track how much you're spending. And like that, like mobile game monetization theory really bothers me. And that's exactly what you're talking about too, right? The idea of like, well, yeah, it's technically there with tokens, but if you actually just pay the extra money, look, you get this variant and all this stuff. And they did make improvements.
Snap pack. You get a little extra snap pack too, you know?
Oh, I know. Like they definitely have made improvements, right? Like the original, you're right. The original version of it was awful. And it was because of you guys stepping up and voting with your wallets that they made those changes, right? I don't like that mobile game space for that reason. The same reason why I stopped playing FIFA Ultimate Team. Like I play Madden every once in a while with my buddies. My buddy will come over And like, we're not playing Ultimate Team because I don't want to engage with that kind of system, right? My buddy will pick, the Bears, and I'm just saying that because, you love the Bears. You usually pick the Bills, and I'll end up picking the Dolphins, which is never fair. But like, I don't like that side of mobile gaming. And I know that it's so many times we talk about monetization stuff. We talk about, Marvel Snap's a mobile game first. You have to accept some of that. Yes, Alex. Yes. The waifu variant's going to cost $140, right? Yes, it's going to, but I can go to my shop right now. My shop is ridiculous right now. Like, you think I'm joking? You think I'm making, look at this. Where is it? Look at this, man. Look at my shop right now. I know you can't really see it. Look at this. We weren't prepared for this conversation. Like, that's, okay, there, boom. Right, there's number one. Okay, number two. Like, you guys think I'm making this up? You don't think they know what they're doing? Bynx, you don't think they know what they're doing?
They know what they're doing, man. They know what they're doing very, very well.
So for me, it's like, and by the way, unironic, it's actually grayed out. I don't know why it's not loading. I guess we got to fix some bugs around here. This is $140 Canadian, $140 plus tax. So
is that like $20 American?
Yeah, not inexpensive, guys. Not inexpensive at all. So yeah, for me, I find the like manipulation tactics of mobile gaming very frustrating. To the point where I'm like, listen, just let me buy a game. I don't care how much it costs. Baldur's Gate 3, let me just buy it, right? No, the best money you could have spent, like, 7 years ago was No Man's Sky, right? Like, let me just buy the game. I'll give you the money, right?
Hits.
You like that?
I do love really good value games like that, where it's just like, I'm going to pay this much and I know what I'm going to get, and it's going to be amazing. Like Mugenics came out very recently that I think is like packed full of content. Really, really good price. Like Slay the Spire 1 is a game that I've bought, I think, 3 or 4 times now. I think I've bought it on PlayStation, on PC, on mobile, on all these different things. And I've put like almost 1,000 hours into that. So excited to play the second one. It's really good. But I agree, man. There's something to just like knowing what you're going to get and getting delivered a really good product. And yeah, it's just a different world than the mobile gaming and how they make it 100%.
The games that I have installed everywhere just for fun, I have Vampire Survivors installed everywhere, and now I have Hades 2 installed everywhere that is possible, which is basically just my Switch and PC. But I'm like, no, I want to play Hades 2 as well. But yeah, so we went off on a bit of a tangent there. But Isca definitely absolutely broken, and Super Premium Season Pass still maybe a little sus. Up for debate. Would it be very interested in your conversation down in the comment section below? And Juggernaut came up a bunch of times. We talked about Juggernaut. And this was a card that I'm willing to admit I think I came in low on. I came in preview as a 2-star. Juggernaut's better than that. This was a card for me that didn't read as good as it actually is. I honestly, Bynx, I don't know about if you feel the same way. I wasn't trying very hard, if at all, to get this to go. And it just did it itself. Like getting 6 different powers in play, if you're just playing cards and playing at least 6 cards, wasn't crazy. It doesn't include itself, naturally, but I found this to be surprisingly easy. It is regularly a 2/8 for me, and I think this card's actually way better than I thought. So I'd be interested in your take.
Yeah, I also came in a little low on Juggernaut. When I did kind of like my review of all the cards at the beginning of the season, I actually messed up and pulled some previous versions. So when I was actually judging Juggernaut, I thought that it had to be 7 different powers. And when that came out, I was like, that's kind of hard to do. Like, that was the data mine version. Yeah. I don't know how easy that's going to be. 6 is a lot easier, like you said. I do think you do have to build your deck towards it a bit, because I was trying them like a Sarah Tech kind of style deck as just like this 2-drop that you can just play out and it'll get bigger later. I was having quite a bit of trouble getting it online. I think it's because I was like using things like Killmonger that would like clear up like different rocks and like the hood that I was playing into the deck. And so there's some problems with that. So I do think that you have to be smart about your deck building. But yeah, the fact that it's a 2/8, like 2/8 is just really, really good value for a 2-drop. It's like pretty outstanding value. And then I do think that it probably is going to be something that people are going to start looking at more and more to counter Isca or some of these other end of turn decks because of how the interaction works. So I think I was also probably around that 2-star level when I saw it at 7. I might have adjusted it up, but I would personally call this card a 3-star card. I think that it's not something that if you don't have this in your collection, you're going to be super upset about. I think that there's lots of different things that you can play instead of it and get a very comparable amount of value from. But I do think that it is a very interesting card. I think it's a good showcase of the objective mechanic. And once again, I do think this card in particular, I think might be the best Isca counter in the game. That's not like a direct turn Isca off, but like an actual way to like outsmart and outplay Isca players is with a card like this.
So according to Untap-based statistics, 53% win rate, which is going to be the lowest that we've discussed thus far, and a 7% popularity, which is also the lowest. It's kind of funny because Isca had 30, and then you had Sabah Nur, which had approximately, what was it?
It was
13 and a half. Yeah. So almost like Isca, and then half of that, then now half of that. So they're like on this very steady step. I like
to be fair, you will always kind of get that with season pass cards, though, right? Like cards that you can buy directly from the season pass are almost always going to be pushed a little bit more than the Series 5 that comes out at the same time. So there's probably some of that in there too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that Juggernaut's not necessarily like a deck build consideration. I think Isca very clearly had a very strong deck that kind of just fell out of the zeitgeist that, immediately it benefited. And Juggernaut doesn't have that. Like it doesn't have like it almost makes me wonder, like, I'm just throwing it out there again. Aurora, I know Aurora's sick, but does Aurora buff objective cards too? Or is that just too much of a buff to Aurora? I don't know. But I guess as we move on to the next topic of discussion, Bynx, I'll ask you to rank the 3. Where would you rank Isca, Juggernaut, and Sabah Nur? 1 to 3, ranked order. Go.
Isca, very large gap.
Yes,
then
agreed.
Sabah Nur, Juggernaut, pretty close to each other.
I would say massive gap, like from here to the sun, Isca, right? And then I would say I would take Juggernaut over Sabah Nur right now. Like I'm not slighting Sabah Nur. I just think Juggernaut in my testing, I'm like, I think I like this card better. I don't like, maybe it's that. And I actually had this thought too. I wonder, maybe it's just because I'm playing Cosmos so much right now. Does this have to be an on reveal? Does the Apocalypse Celestial's Chosen effect have to be on reveal? Can it just be a thing that just happens? Like, because I've done it myself twice, and I've seen people do it where like the on reveal side of this actually is used like, and it's on Cosmo or something negative happens because of it's on reveal. I had that thought. I don't know if that's a buff or a nerf because technically you could put like Wong under it or something, right? But
yeah,
we don't really consider the on reveal aspect of this card, whether it's good or bad or just neutral.
Well, I don't think you can just remove the on reveal, right? Because like on reveal it happens when it flips, and like you couldn't just have like a trigger. I guess you could say like when this transforms, but then like if you're putting that on the card, then it's already transformed. So I feel like there's actually like some weird things where it kind of has to be an on reveal. Someone did make the suggestion that this is a end of game that happens where you flip it immediately to a 4/8 and then it says end of game, do this, which I thought would actually be pretty good. It would get around Cosmo. It would again be another better way to go around Isca, and it stops some of that from happening. But maybe that makes it worse in some cases too, right? Because maybe you want to flip it like on turn 5 or something like that. I'm sure there's certain game plans and stuff that would do that. So I do think it would take some adjustment. I do think it kind of has to be an on reveal with exactly how it functions right now. But I do think that there's probably some room to adjust it to either like an end of turn or like this being end of turn actually seems kind of sick, right? Like if like you get it on 4, then it just happens multiple times. Like that could be really good. It probably makes the card too strong. I'm not a game designer. I don't know. But yeah, the on reveal aspect of it is something that can hold it back to an extent. And I think it rarely makes it stronger, the fact that it's there. Because like you said, it's probably pretty rare that you're doubling it.
Yeah. Okay. So both Bynx and I high on Isca, and then Bynx and Sabah Nur, myself at number 2, I'm putting Juggernaut, and those two, but they're much closer. But there is a definite clear winner amongst the 3. And that, my friend, is going to take us to the preview of Gambit, the Horseman of Death. The 3/3 that reads, objective, play 5 total cost of created cards. And that'll not create, but the objective will then resolve Randomly destroy up to 4 total cost of enemy cards. That might be the worst I've ever read card text, but also it doesn't read particularly well. I got to be honest with you.
It's a little wordy, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little wordy, a little weird. But anyways, Gambit, I don't like coming into the podcast and being like, I don't know. But this is the one this month where I'm least sure about how I want to rank it. My instincts tell me this is a 4-star card. That's my instincts telling me. But then it's created cards. How good how good can I make created card decks? And then it's like, well, we got Victoria Hand. Like there's good decks there, right? Man, I'm being honest with you when I say that like I am still up in the air in how I want to rank this. So I'll pass it off to you. But I do think that Gambit is timely, considering what the end of the season might look like with some of the new releases coming out. Might be lots of rocks to pump. So like, I don't know, man. I'd be very interested in your thoughts because I'm still, as I sit here speaking, unsure of how I want to rank this card.
Yeah, when I initially looked at it again, it was the same thing that happened with Juggernaut because the data mine version had 6 total cost of created cards. So I was a little bit off with my original looking at this. But like it seems like it's pretty hard to get done, right? It's kind of hard to play that many created cards because you have to play the cards that create them and then actually push them out. And then there's also things to look at with like, destroying up to 4 total cost of enemy cards. I feel like there's going to be so many times where that's going to happen. You're going to clear out like 2 power, right? And it's going to feel terrible. Until someone pointing out the card that makes this card one of the most terrifying cards I've ever seen in my life, and that is Mysterio. Because Mysterio, when you play it, plays 3 different created cards that all are 2 cost. Because the cards that get created by Mysterio are all created cards when they come onto the field. So if you play Mysterio and then you play this, objective complete, and you can literally just gobble up basically everything they did the first 3 turns. So that is what terrifies me about this card. Maybe that interaction is not something that's going to go in that route. But before I thought about Mysterio and how it works with this card, I was like, it's probably pretty good. I'd probably put it at like 3 stars. If it works well with Mysterio, like basically now if you can play Mysterio on 2, you can either play Sasquatch or Mockingbird or this card to follow it up. All of which like directly on curve and all of which punishing your opponent in a different way. And to me, that's freaking terrifying. Mysterio works so good with every objective card in the craziest way ever. And that's what really scares me about these new objective cards coming out is how that interaction is going to work.
So, I had not considered Mysterio. I thought that you were going to bring up Valentina, who theoretically, I believe, this card will check the total capital C cost, which means the OG cost of the card played. So you play Valentina, and then you play the now discounted 6-drop, but this will see it as a 6, right? I thought you were going to say Valentina. I'm like, hell yeah, bro. Mysterio gameplays. Mysterio Sasquatch. Is Mysterio Sasquatch coming back? Oh, no. Oh, no. It's the card's been irrelevant for a bit. That was actually... Remember when it used to be a 2-5? Mysterio used to be a 2-5?
Yeah, man.
That was like one of those surprises. Yeah, way back when. It's like we're old guys talking about like, do you remember?
2 guys sitting around talking, naming old football players type.
Yeah, I know. Like, do you remember when the refrigerator ran for 45 yards against the Bears? And all that? Yeah, I'm just gonna keep bringing up the Bears when I'm talking to you. I can't help myself.
But yeah, man, like I said, man, I was pretty medium on this card. And I even thought about the Valentina thing, and I do think it will work because it does use the capital C cost, because that's usually how they differentiate them, unless they just wrote it wrong, which has happened multiple times, unfortunately. But the interaction with Mysterio is absolutely terrifying for me. Mysterio completes this objective, and then I think there's 2 other objective cards that are coming out that it completes on its own. And if that interaction works as I'm expecting it to, because they do count as created cards when they're put out there, like they will get buffed by Valentina until they flip back. It's very scary. It's very, very scary if that ends up happening. And I really think that it's going to cause problems. So maybe that's something that they'll adjust, or maybe that's something that they'll look at, or maybe the way that Mysterio cards are played will be changed to be a little bit different so it doesn't complete all the objectives. But yeah, Mysterio scares the crap. Like you can basically run Mysterio, this card, and Valentina, like you said. You just have 2 really clean, easy ways to get this card activated, and you don't really have to have a big deck building requirement. And that's what's scary to me, because this, like, destroying up to 4 random cards when you could do it on turn 3 is horrifying. Like, if it's the very end of the game that it's kind of just random and it's not really that impactful, but like if you play like, you know, 1-drop, 2-drop that are kind of like, you know, build around or like ones that are meant to grow or like extend your game plan, and then your opponent just plays Gambit and just gobbles up everything you did, like that can feel really toxic. So that's what I'm worried about with this card. It's like the earlier you play this card, I feel like the more dangerous it is to be a real nasty meta card. Whereas if it's a card that pretty much only gets the objective cleared on like turn 6, I don't think it's that scary.
Mm-hmm. So like the fact that it's random, it could cook itself too, right? Like if you have a 3 and a 2 on the field of play, it can't destroy both because that's 5 total costs. It's going to random roll between 3 and the 2. So yeah, I don't know. A very interesting card, and I think, as I said, and kind of in the intro there, going into it, this is going to be very interesting to see how it's the release valve going into the. I mean, we may as well talk about it now too. But the next card to talk about is going to be the start of the rock synergies, right? So coming out in the limited time game mode is going to be Sandstorm. Now, I don't think Sandstorm is going to be relevant on its own this first week, because you do have other cards coming out. I don't know how to say the name. Osmodeus? Is it Asmodeus? How would you say
Ozymandias?
Ozymandias?
That's what I've been saying. I might not be close, though.
Yeah. So let's take Sandstorm. Let's discuss Sandstorm in conjunction with what it's eventually going to be, because as a standalone, it's like kind of whatever. Still has maybe some applicable uses. But Sandstorm as a 2-cost skill. The art here doesn't necessarily demonstrate it as a skill. It's on reveal, add 2 rocks to your hand. Give them +1 power for each of your front row characters. Potential and Sabah Nur synergy here. You're going to have people in the front row. These rocks are going to be chunky. Bynx, what do you think?
Dude, you want to hear my crazy hot take? Because you mentioned that you don't think Sandstorm's going to be that good. I think Sandstorm's going to see a lot of play. I actually don't think Ozymandias is going to be played in those rock-style decks. I think they're going to opt to play a card like Patriot, because 5 is just really expensive, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong about this, because giving +3 is like pretty big. It's very rare that they'll allow a card to give +3 to something. Like, that's always kind of been something that causes problems. But when I look at this card, I think that this is like the best Victoria hand card they've released in a real long time. Because if you're playing this card on turn 4 or turn 5, and it's also like how you have to play this card, right? Because this card is so much better when you play it on turn 4 or turn 5. Like, you can't really curve into this card. Like, you might be able to just want 1/1 rocks and like maybe you kind of have to play it out. I think that the power level of this card in a deck like Vic Hand is how easily you can hold this card until turn 4 and turn 5. But if you're playing Ozymandias, you kind of have to play him on 5, right? Because you want to burst out your cards, which means you have to play this on 4 earlier, which means maybe you aren't able to fill that out as much. But I mean, to me, this card is horrifying. This is like basically Kate Bishop that doesn't take up a board space and very often is just going to be stronger as far as the cards that you get out. And I think that the way that the Rocks deck is going to be isn't going to be relying on Ozymandias. I think it's going to be like a Victoria Hand Patriot style deck, because both those cards can also work with Moonstone, which is really, really powerful. Just getting some random rocks like this, Mole Man, Hood, which gets buffed. The Demon gets buffed by both Patriot and Vic Hand. Now you have all these different ways to get these 1-cost value cards. You build up your hand, you kind of get out your buffers onto the field, and then you burst out and you play like 5 1-drops. They're all like 1/12s. And then how the heck do you freaking beat that? So I'm actually, I think I'm very contrarian on this, and I think that I could very well be wrong, but I'm of the opinion that Ozymandias is actually going to be too expensive to see play with how a lot of these cards like work and the order that they want to be played. But I think that Sandstorm is so much more powerful than people are giving it credit for. Because like if you have a full front row, it's a 2-cost, get 2 demons, right? Like you're getting a 1/6 vanilla card. Like a card that's a 2-cost, get 2 demons would be insane, right? And that's what that card does almost always on turn 5. So I'm really, really excited for Sandstorm. I had it ranked under Ramatut and Isca as my 3rd strongest card coming out the whole month. And I think that people are not ready for how powerful this card is going to be and how it's going to supercharge Vic Hand.
So I actually, I ranked it 3.5. And I agree that it's good. And now I had not considered it being completely separate from Ozymandias. That's what I'm going with. Is that right or wrong?
I have no idea, man. Asking me how to pronounce things is actually very funny because I'm very well known as someone who says things wrong on purpose and then also is just terrible at pronouncing things.
Let's just say Ozzy.
Okay,
Our
boy Ozzy.
Okay, he's Ozzy, our boy Ozzy. So I think that it's likely they see play together, at least early on. +3 power has always been so good in Marvel Snap.
Mm-hmm.
However, you're right, though. Like, if you talk about Patriot's probably enough. If you talk about like a Victoria Hand Patriot Moonstone deck, like, and then like, okay, you Squirrel Girl, and then like you're right. Like the front row fills. These cards are massive. They're getting juiced out of the wazoo. Yeah, like I can absolutely see that working. It is. It is a terrifying. I'm just thinking. Could also be good in Zoo, right? Because they're going to be 1-drops. You got the Blarvels. You got the Khazars. They're going to be green power for Gilgamesh to slam. You can squeeze a 2-drop into that mix, right? Yeah, it's like, okay, I'm feeling it. And I believe this comes out on with Team Clash, which is going to be cool. Very interesting. If my notes are correct, it's Team Clash. Okay, I think that I don't think I'm going to move off of 3.5 stars. I think 3.5 stars is still a solid rating for a skill that's doing a thing that should be kind of collaborating with another card. For the record, Ozzy, I had given 4. And I felt like those two were definitely going to be played together. But you're right, the sequencing of it, right? The sequencing of it is something worth thinking about. What is your star rating on Sandstorm?
4.5. I think this card is
4.5.
I think this card is terrifying. And I was like, one aspect of it is like, yeah, but with Kate Bishop, you get the 2/3 with it. But like, sometimes you don't want that taking up space on your board in like a weird way, and you want more flexibility to be able to burst. But yeah, man, I just look at this card as like, if there was a 2-cost skill that just said add 2 demons to your hand, everyone would lose their mind and say, why the hell would anyone ever make that? And in many ways, that's what this card is. Now, it's going to depend on if the timing of having to play it on turn 4 or 5 is important. I think that's a really important thing that some people have don't look at as much when like assessing Marvel Snap cards, like a card like Sage, for instance, right? Like when you play Sage and it's massive, it's really good. You can't curve out Sage almost ever. No. You can't just play Sage on 3. It's a card that you have to not play proactively. So I do think that there's a buff to cards that you can play proactively, and this card you can't really just play early as just a setup card most of the time. Because you're just not going to get nearly as much value out of it. But if you can construct a deck that's very happy and very okay, like, and that's why I'm thinking like Patriot, because you can play like Patriot that card on 5. You know, you can play Vic Hand Hood this card on 5, and then like, yeah, I just think like the way that you're going to be able to burst out your hands, I think that. The other thing that scares me with like the rock style decks as to where they might not be as good is because Killmonger is still a card in the game that you are allowed to play and just will absolutely destroy you. And that's kind of why I'm thinking like it might be better to burst all of these cards out at the very end of the game as opposed to like being a little bit more proactive with them to dodge any level of counterplay and be really unpredictable on that final turn.
And which is probably why you're going to see a lot of Kyera and a lot of armor. And I almost wonder if Kyera and armor are going to see changes. I wonder if Kyera could it afford to go to a 3/5. I don't think they buff it. I think they let people experiment with it. I saw a suggestion. Oh, I'm trying to think of where it was. This is not my suggestion. Someone else said this, and I was like, that's genius. I love it. They suggested armor as a 1/2. Because if you think about it, armor as a 1/2 goes right into the Zoo decks it's meant to protect for the most part. Also, a nice release valve for Shang-Chi and some other destroy mechanics. Not a bad idea. I just wonder, because like Kyera's a nice catch-all for the rocks, but could armor see some play? Especially in consideration that like you're going to want to protect those things. If you're committing to it, I don't know if you just retreat on Killmonger games anyways, but with Gambit coming out, who's also going to destroy things, does armor have to be more viable than it is right now?
That's really interesting. I actually don't mind the idea of 1/2 armor. It really sees almost no play right now, right? It is one of the few cards. I did do a thing on Bynx Pants recently, which is cards that have somehow never been changed. And armor is one of those cards that's on the list. This card has never changed. It has always been the exact same. And I think that that's so interesting that there's still cards that are like that. But, you know, this card I feel like has never been played a lot, but it's probably in like the last year been played significantly less than it ever has, especially with Shang-Chi not being as popular. I personally wouldn't mind armor going to 1-2 or maybe 2-4. Like, this does seem like it's the problem with it going to 1-2 is maybe that it might become too easy of a tech, and it might be really disruptive to destroy ever being a decent archetype ever again. If like this is like just a cheap card that you can throw in to just smash the 15% of players who will never stop playing Destroy and will play Destroy every season no matter what you do. So maybe that's kind of the fear, is that when the card becomes that cheap and that easy to play into your deck and just squeeze in as a 1-2, that it kind of might destroy that archetype that so many players love. So I'd be interested in seeing that. I also, in my opinion, I don't think armor is a very good counter to Killmonger, because it only defends one lane. Like, I've never felt like armor really improves my decks that rely on one cost like Kyera does, because Kyera is just a catch-all and kind of hits everything. Whereas like armor, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to play the armor in this lane, and then, well, I guess I have to play all my 1-drops in that lane, and then like, okay, well, maybe I'll play some cards outside of it. I'll play some 1-drops there, and then you still get Killmonger, and then you're just like, oh, why the hell am I running armor in my deck? So it's interesting. I think that Kyera will probably see play. It just depends on how strong the decks are, because the decks aren't that strong. People just won't care about it, and they'll just beat it through other means and not counter it. But if Killmonger does see a big rise, then I think Kyera will be a much better solution to try and fight back against that, which then lowers the power level of those decks, because Kyera is a 3-4 that you have to play out and spend 3 energy on to put onto your board. So it's all going to be kind of like the levers moving up and down, back and forth. But it'd be really, really interesting thing to see with that. And I actually don't mind that changed armor. I think they'd have to be smart about it, but I do think that's a cool suggestion too.
I love what you've said. And you know what? Before we go any further, I want you to know that I pulled a discussion from the Snapchat mailbag that I was like, Bynx is the only one that can answer this question. Bynx is the only one that we can have this conversation with. Now, I know you're smiling, but that smile is going to turn upside down because we need to talk. Look at that. I knew it. I knew immediately your demeanor was going to change as soon as I brought this card on the screen. Mobius and Mobius. Now, Bynx is like, why are you doing this? Like, we had such a good night together, Alex. Why are you doing this? But don't worry, Mobius and Mobius is only a part of the equation here, because Call Me Caution for the Snapchat mailbag said, do we ever need to see a card like Triple M for max energy? Your opponent cannot increase their max energy and yours cannot be lowered. Kind of a thing for Star-Lord purposes. So Bynx, I'll throw it your way. Do we need a Mobius and Mobius for additional max energy?
Absolutely not. For me, and I did a whole thing again on Bynx Bands talking about my least favorite card designs in the whole game. And it's this card and Super Scroll are really the two cards that I hate with such a burning passion, because like, I don't know. It's something about, I feel, and I could be completely wrong. I'm not a game designer, right? And maybe like there is really good positive things that having cards like this in the game to have those safety valves. But to me, I don't think the solution to a deck being too strong is to just make a card you can put into your deck that auto beats it. I think that's, in my opinion, I find that to be bad design for a couple of reasons. One, I just think it's a little lazy. Just like overall, I just think it's a little lazy. Is like, okay, well, now here's this card that if you can put into your deck and just always beat that deck. I don't really like Super Scrolls like that too, man. When like Tribunal is all over the place and people start just throwing Super Scroll on your deck, and then you're playing like a Spectrum deck and they just play it against you. You're like, okay, why did I even sit down and play this 3-minute game if you were going to draw that card and just play, hey, this card does everything that your entire deck does except for every other game when it's just a 4-2 that sticks in my hand and I never play. But I fundamentally dislike this style of design of just having a kind of catch-all, your cool thing that your deck is doing, it just doesn't get to do because I have this tech card. I really, really dislike it. I personally think that things should be balanced and adjusted to not need cards like that. I think that leads to things being a lot more fun. And what I always say about Mobius in particular is that my fun that I have in the game is inversely proportional to how much this card gets played. When this card is getting played all the time, I feel like it usually points to really degenerate metas where decks can just run cards like Mobius or run cards like Super Scroll, where their deck is strong enough as is that they can just throw this extra card that they don't even play sometimes that just wins them certain matchups and they could just kind of throw it out. I think that leads to the least fun metas and the least fun that I personally have with Snap. So I like the idea, and I think that it's something that people are being reactionary towards Star-Lord. In my opinion, they should just nerf and adjust Star-Lord to get him back in level where other decks can compete with him in a healthier way, as opposed to just throwing out a catch-all tech card that will just win you that matchup and kind of do nothing in other matchups.
All right. We got the full Bynx, Mobius, and Mobius rant here on the Marvel Snapchat, and that is where we got to end it. We can't ask for more than that. That's the send-off we needed, guys. And down in the description and in the pinned comment down below, I'm going to have the social links for Bynx. Follow him on Twitch. Absolutely phenomenal streamer. You must know him on YouTube, but use the subscribe button down below to make sure you are subscribed to Bynx. Links to all his content. Bynx Bance is awesome. His deck design is phenomenal. And Bynx, once again, just want to say thank you so much for joining us here on the Snapchat. I'm sure we'll have you on again.
Dude, I'm always here, man. It's always a pleasure being here. It's one of my highlights of the week whenever we get to sit down and have a great chat like this. So I appreciate you, buddy. And yeah, man, I'll be back.
Thank you so much for listening, everyone. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for supporting Marvel Snap and, of course, for supporting the content creators that cover it. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and we'll see you on that next one.